Hey guys, what's up? It's me, Pigboy25 here, and today I'm doing part 2 of my top 100 coaster countdown bonanza. We got the disqualified entrance, we got the invalid credits out of the way, but yeah, we're actually starting the top 100 countdown. It's a long road from here to get to number 1. So we have to get to the bad parts in order to reach the best, and there's some pretty bad coasters on here. There's kind of some controversy with one entry since it is leaving during the 2016 season, but it's at the time of this recording, it's not gone yet. At the time of the upload, it's not gone yet. Probably recording a few days in advance because I have time. And we move to the cease credits as soon as it departs or ceases operation. With all that out of the way, let's begin the actual countdown. Number 100 is Ninja at Six Flags St. Louis. This half arrow, half Vekoma pile of trash fulfills its job as a ninja perfectly. If its job was to propeller kick your head until your skull chips to pieces and ends up rupturing your brain. Try thinking about that one. This ride's rough, jerky, bland, and runs horribly with the VR. It's as you didn't know, as if you weren't already being thrashed around when you were predicting when you were going to get thrown around. It's just, I have not seen it or ridden it with VR, because I hadn't been to St. Louis since August of 2015. I mean, the only positives is that the ride is actually very photogenic. The photo on the very bottom left is actually really easy to obtain. From just going to a certain portion of the queue right before the station, you can easily snap that photo. And in several places. You can do it at the bottom of the Immelman, the top, or in the Immelman, ascending the lift hill, brake run, the straight section. You can put it in a lot of places. Also, I mean, other than that, oh yeah, I forgot. The train, or one of the trains, is caked in stride gum ads. As if Ninja wasn't already bad enough, you have an ad-littered train that completely defies the thing of a ninja. When's the last time you've seen a ninja disguising himself in rainbow? Or multicolored splatter? No, it's usually in black, or white, or blue. It's the guy of the night, or the day, or the walls, or something. It's never rainbow. I've never seen a rainbow ninja unless it's some sort of impractical internet creation. But yeah, this ride is just awful in all respects. I mean, I personally don't like Corkscrew. I personally like this over Corkscrew because it's a fuller layout, and Corkscrew has the infamous airtime hill. This thing is pretty bad in every other element, though. For big, it's bad. Really bad. And I'll probably be placed even lower with the VR. Boss, number 99. The only CCI coaster I have ever ridden has left quite a rotten taste in my mouth, and 2 legs of red bruises and cuts. Because this rough yet modern pile of trash really needs retracking. I'm not going to immediately point to RMC or Demolition. If this thing got a GCI retrack, this thing could be the best ride of the park. I will say that now. Its layout is quite phenomenal with some good airtime, forces, bank turns, and overall, it has a nice secluded experience out in the woods in the very back section of the park. And also, they can stick some PTC trains on this because this thing runs Gerstlauer trains, which I'm not really skilled in the art of trains, but I've heard very bad things about Gerstlauer trains instead of PTC. I mean, if this thing does not get GCI, then RMC it. I mean, I don't care if you take out that little straight section, little out and back straight section before the track. I mean, if you can RMC that, this would be wonderful. And, I mean, I've heard people say this thing does have a good day of operation occasionally. This thing's very bipolar with its operation. It can run incredibly rough, which is probably my visit, or it can actually run fairly decent and be a middle-tier wooden coaster. But no, it just, I mean, when I was there, it ran really rough, and the trains did not help it at all. And you can't ignore that the trains are butt ugly as well. Green, yellow, and purple. Those don't mix. I mean, the color scheme, they tried their best, but it just doesn't mix. It doesn't blend. Just, no. Replace the trains, replace the track, and, I don't know, replace something else, but just the train, the track, they all need to be replaced. Stick some GCI retracking and Millennium Flyers on this, and you're good to go. Best ride in the park. Can possibly compete with Mr. Freeze, but this thing is far below the other 2 wooden coasters in the park. which will be coming much, much later. Number 98 is Mean Streak. Remember said controversy mentioned at the very beginning as my traditional little note? This is it. This oversized din hunk of trash well deserves to be shut down. It barely drew any crowds. When I went on Mean Streak, it was a walk-on with half of the train empty. Sure, I think a group of 2 people waited for like 1 or 2 trains for front row, but it's front row. The whole back half of the train was vacant. I mean, when this thing does get shut down come mid-September, I forget the exact date, but it's like, I know it's mid-September, like right before their Halloween weekend starts up, or maybe during the first week of that. I really hope CP brings us the RMC the park so needed. Even if they retract us with GCI, they cannot make this thing good again. Its layout is horrendously boring to begin with. Bank turns, trim brakes, a mid-course brake run that slows you to a crawl, airtime hills. It's just not a good ride. And the markings of the support clearly indicates that it's not going to be GCI'd, because those supports are most likely going to get knocked down for whatever they're doing with it. I would like to see this thing get RMC'd by 2018. Sorry for the dogs in the background. Number 97 is Roar. No Katy Perry references for here right now. I'll probably make one after the recording's done. Out of the 4 GCIs I've ridden, this was the worst by a short margin. This one still runs PTC trains and is the only standing GCI to do so. Actually, the only GCI, even the deceased GCIs. Wildcat at Hershey Park used to run PTC, Gwazi used to run PTC trains, but both of those got replaced. This one still runs PTC trains. I mean, this thing is rough, even for a GCI. This was built before GCI's golden age come the 21st century. I think every GCI past Lightning Racer was probably really good. Maybe Roar Discovery Kingdom, which was like 1999. But their first few works were pretty bad. And they've had a few oddities or a few not so good works. Like from what I've heard, Apocalypse at Magic Mountain isn't that good. But I'm not ranting about GCIs or anything. This layout is pretty much like every other GCI. Bank turns, figure eights, airtime moments. It's Twister layout. So it's like more of a classic GCI than a modern Prowler-esque GCI. I mean, I could have different feelings when I ride this since my last ride was July 2014, and it was the second to last ride in the park that I did. I mean, I just think it'll be very unlikely that I'll have different feelings about this when I ride it again, if I ever do. Or I have no plans to get back to Washington, D.C. I mean, this thing, I think the most it can do is get a few places higher because I realize it's not going to be as bad as the other wooden coasters that I'm placing just above. But, I mean, then again, it's probably still going to be bad because a GCI running PTC trains and being a GCI primitive work doesn't exactly mean that good things. Just, yeah, not that good. Number 96 is another GCI. Wildcat at Hershey Park. I give the one up to Wildcat for 2 reasons. One, it is absolutely stunning at certain angles. The picture on the bottom left perfectly demonstrates the beauty that can be GCI. And 2, this thing actually runs Millennium Flyer trains. It might be relentlessly rough even with it, and it might have been their first coaster ever, but I won't give them slack for that. It just sucks. Especially when you have a better GCI, a much better GCI, a minute away by foot. This thing, the only solution this thing can have is RMC. There's no reason this thing should still be around at the park. And this thing was installed 4 years before Lightning Racer. I can understand like 10, but 4. 4 years. I mean, this thing, the only fate I'll accept for this is an RMC. Iron Wildcat would be absolutely phenomenal. I mean, I will say the GCI has come a long way since this thing, because a lot of their more modern works, Prowler, American Thunder, White Lightning, Gold Striker, Python and Bamboo Forest, if anyone's been to China to get on that one, they've all been phenomenal. But this is where they started, and not good. They got off to a rough start, pun intended. I mean, maybe 2018 they'll come to their senses. I mean, the drop tower this year was kind of a misplay as well. but I'm far overdue an analysis video for that. Next up, we have number 95, Nighthawk. The final ride that I went on for my collection of Dutchmans that spanned 3 years, Batwing in 2014, Firehawk 2015, Nighthawk 2016. This one was by far the worst. Shaky, rough, and no matter how I position myself, because I'm somewhat experienced in Dutchman, it just gave you a headache. And it's just generally an unpleasant coaster. I even enjoyed Carolina Cyclone much more than this. Not much more, but just more. A little more. And can we also take a moment to analyze the dispatch speed of this ride? There's a mess before the ride even gets out of the station! This thing is not worth the inflated queue. The queue is much longer. You could probably get an Intimidator twice, or Fury twice on a day, before you can get on this thing. Because dispatch is like 3 minutes, 2 minutes, 3 minutes long because of the floppy restraints and laying back position that is so delicate. I mean, the only reason you'd ever want to get on this is either if you're taking a new friend who really wants to get on this, and then immediately makes a mistake, or if you're going for the one-up, the +1 credit. Then go for it. I'm not judging you there, you have good reasons. I needed 3 rides on Fury just to wipe out the pain on this one. And Fury, well, obviously it's a good ride. You'll see how it ranks later if you haven't heard any context clues before then. Number 94 is my home park and pride, the first entry from my home park, Demon at Great America. That is my home park. And we'll see here, this thing is a 4 inversion ticket, free ticket, included with admission, to a headache. Enough to root, with a strong enough magnitude to ruin anyone's day. And they also stick VR on this thing. I'm glad this thing was a target instead of Raging Bull. So if you stuck that on Raging Bull, I probably would have gone on a rampage. It probably would have been worth the commute to Texas to throw a thrashing in the CEO's office. Whatever the new Mr. Potato Head guy is thinking. I'm sorry about that. That was uncalled for. It's absurdly rough. And the restraints are extremely bulky, even for arrows. And they don't have the newer micro-click technology. So they always feel loose, even if they're squishing you. It's just a bad ride. I mean, the best parts about it is, like the corkscrew syndrome, that it spirals, the finale double corkscrew spirals over a small pathway, connecting County Fair like X-Flight and Demon to Justice League and Raging Bull. And Giant Drop and Ricochet and River Rocker, all that stuff. And I also yell at the riders when they're entering the corkscrews. I just like, hey, good luck! Hope you have some aspirin! And before they tumble into the corkscrews, I can often see their head being whipped around. It's just a gruesome sight. There's no blood, but it just makes me... I just feel sympathy for them. And also it has a nice light show in the tunnel before entering the brake run. It's nicely decorated too. The rocks make a nice element, and some good near misses. That's about it. The ride experience sucks, but the decoration is not bad. The theming, not really calling it theming, but decoration and some of the more thematic elements or decorative elements are good. But the ride is terrible. Enough said. Number 93 is Gotham City Gauntlet Escape from Arkham Asylum. The longest name for a coaster by far that I've ever said. I mean, this Wild Mouse is subpar, even for Wild Mice. The one flaw on this ride is an unpadded T-bar restraint. On every switchback, no matter what side you're sitting on, or at least half the switchbacks, your leg will be crushed by the middle bar. There's no padding, it's just a flat-out pull. It is painful. It's not as painful as an Arrow Airtime Hill, but it's painful, alright. It's just a crushed sensation. I probably had a bruise coming off of that one. I didn't check, but I'm willing to bet I did. I mean, and it's the only Mauer Zona Wild Mouse I've ever ridden. I was very disappointed. This ride was awful. Second worst ride in New England. This is the second entry from New England. And it's just terrible. This ride is just awful, even for Wild Mice. The only advantage that I had, or the only advantages that I could think of, is that it's not bad, not terribly, it's not too terribly themed. It's got some decent thematic elements. The cars or the cars, because there's not really a train on this thing. They're nice. I mean, they have decor of the DC villains trying to escape. They have some misters and some theming to the asylum or some radioactive material. Other than that, it's just subpar. Every other Wild Mouse I've ridden has been perfectly fine. And why does this thing have an airtime hill? If you look in the bottom right, why does it have an airtime hill? Sure, you might go out of your seat a little, but with the restraint like that, it's not worth it. I hate this ride with a passion. It should have just been left to rot at Kentucky Kingdom as Roadrunner Express. They should have never revived it and brought it to New England, even if they needed that family ride. It's just a terrible family ride. It's just, it's awful. I can just wince every time I think about getting it. Oh yeah, and this is also the only coaster I've ever gotten a Zen ride on. And sure, it's kind of an easy task, considering it was a walk-on. I literally waited for the Catwoman train, because that's my favorite DC supervillain. No, and I got a Zen ride on it. Nobody else came behind me until I even got off the train. I'm just gonna stop here. This coaster is just making me visibly frustrated because it's just so bad. Number 92 is the Carolina Cyclone. Yeah, Nighthawk's worse. Mention this. This thing isn't too much better. This is the Aero Looper at Carowinds, obviously. It was the first coaster to boast and wield 4 inversions. The ride here is better than Demon at Great America, but still awful. It has slightly less headbanging, has a forceful double helix in the finale that I did not expect. I don't think I've ever seen an aero coaster use a double helix like that. It is a small moment of aero airtime. I've mentioned that several times already. If you've seen my last video, part 1, you'll know that Corkscrew was the single most painful moment to that aero airtime hill. It still hurts. Not as bad as Corkscrew, but it still hurts, because it's a little pop before going into the corkscrews. Oh yeah, and one of the good things, it has no mid-course brake run. And it's also a more wild ride because of it. Otherwise, it's pretty bad, but I think this is probably my favorite Aero subcompact, or my Aero pre-Aeros, before they get to the mega looping age, like Vortex and Viper. But this is probably one of my favorite 4 inversion clone Aero models that I've ridden so far. Better than Demon, probably better than Corkscrew. This is probably one of my favorite 2, 3, 4 inversion models. Because I like it, but it's not that good. But I just can't help to like it a little bit. And it is better than Nighthawk. I just flat out hated Nighthawk. And my experience getting on the ride was bad because of rain and lots of it. Yeah. Watch my synopsis if you hadn't watched it already. If you want to hear about my Nighthawk horror story. Number 91, and the final entry on our list is Trailblazer. The first of many mine trains on this list. I've been on, I think, like 5 mine trains or something. And it's just a jerky snore fest. There isn't even a definitive drop on this. I've ranted about this coaster many times before. I know it's a family ride, it's good for the kiddies and for the adults that are not exactly too fond with coasters. But this thing doesn't even have a definitive drop or height elevation. It's just turning. That's all it's doing for the whole ride. It's just turning at a slightly downward descent. And the best part of the ride is the double helix finale. I mean, that's acceptable. Not really, actually. Double helix finales of being the best part of the ride are not acceptable unless they're completely out of the ordinary. But mine trains are known for just doing turns. This one doesn't even have a large drop at the near or at the end of the ride like other mine trains that will be higher up on the list. This one just is horrible. And you have a park decked with family rides. You have things like Comet, Laugh Track, Super Duper Looper. You have some small, tame roller coasters for the kids. Like, a lot of people will enjoy Comet. It's a classic. Laugh Track's a fun one. Because, it's just a spinning coaster. It's not meant to be thrilling. It's just meant to get you to laugh, have some fun. Whip your hat around or something, if you even can bring it with. Sure, it might be a bit intimidating. I'll cover Laugh Track a little later, cover my full thoughts on that. But this thing is just... No, I don't like this thing. This is probably, out of all the Aero mine trains, I really do not like this thing. And just the recap, we'll be doing a recap. Number 100, Six Flags St. Louis. Number 99, Boss at Six Flags St. Louis. Number 98, Mean Streak, Cedar Point, shutting down mid-September of 2016. Number 97, Roar, Six Flags America. Number 96, Wildcat, Hershey Park. Number 95, Nighthawk, Carowinds. Number 94, Demon, Six Flags Great America. Number 93, Gotham City Gauntlet, Escape from Arkham Asylum. AKA overly long name that literally had to shorten the text size of my document because I don't want it taking up 2 lines of text. Number 92, Carolina Cyclone, and number 91, Trailblazer. And not the ones from Portland, because they're actually decent. So, yeah, that wraps up my top 100 coaster countdown Bonanza Part 2. This will be an 11-part series, if you do recall. Next time, probably my next video, or maybe my next video or two, will most likely be, will be entries number 90 to 81. Some of the rides that are tolerable, can have some fun moments, but are just still bad and mostly terrible. So yeah, that will be the summary of 90 to 81. I hope you all have enjoyed the video today. I really hope this series keeps going, has some strong momentum, because a lot of people like hearing about the worst coasters, a lot of people like hearing about the best coasters. I really hope we can stay strong in the middle section, though, because I do have some controversial picks that might spark some debate. So if you like debating coasters, if you like fighting coasters, all that yap talk and all that, stay tuned for the middle parts, because I have some coasters that are pretty high up on certain people's lists that are actually kind of low. Well, not low, but more middle tier. And I have some coasters that people consider bad as middle tier, because I like certain one of these. And I hope you all have enjoyed. As always, I wish you guys peace.